What appears at first glance to be a debate over a fighter aircraft is, in truth, something far more consequential. When a nation chooses how it will defend its airspace, how it will structure its industrial base, and how it will bind itself to allies, it is not merely purchasing machinery. It is making a declaration about sovereignty, strategic autonomy, and the architecture of its long-term security. Decisions of this magnitude test not only budgets and procurement processes, but judgment itself. In recent months, a narrative has taken shape around the Swedish-built Gripen fighter jet. For years, it has been dismissed in certain defense circles as a lightweight platform, a practical aircraft suited for smaller nations, efficient but unremarkable. Its single engine, its modest size, and its emphasis on cost control rather than raw payload numbers led many to relegate it to a secondary tier in conversations dominated by larger and more politically entrenched aircraft. Then came exercises such as Red Flag Alaska. There, according to Swedish reporting, Gripen aircraft operating in a complex and contested training environment achieved notable air-to-air results against established Western fighters. The specific figures remain subject to debate, and the United States Air Force did not formally validate the claims. Yet, the mere plausibility of those outcomes unsettled assumptions that had hardened over time. Later engagements involving Norwegian F-16s, publicly acknowledged by a NATO ally, reinforced the impression that the aircraft's performance could not be casually dismissed. The question before us, however, is not whether one exercise scorecard definitively proves superiority. Exercises are not wars. They are structured simulations, shaped by parameters and scenarios that cannot fully replicate the fog and friction of combat. The deeper question is why an aircraft long regarded as secondary demonstrated capabilities that forced more established platforms to reconsider their own assumptions. The answer lies not in spectacle, but in design philosophy. The Gripen was conceived within Sweden's unique strategic context. Vast territory, limited population, harsh climate, and a defensive doctrine centered on resilience and dispersion. Its architecture emphasizes networked data sharing, distributed situational awareness, and rapid turnaround. Rather than relying solely on centralized airborne warning and constant radar emissions, its pilots have employed tactics that minimize detectability while preserving a shared operational picture across formations. This is not a story of brute force. It is a story of systems coherence. It is a reminder that modern air combat is no longer measured solely in thrust-to-weight ratios or payload charts. It is measured in information dominance, maintenance efficiency, and the ability to generate sustained sorties under operational strain. As Sweden transitioned from decades of neutrality to full NATO membership in 2024, its aircraft moved swiftly from training environments into real-world alliance missions. Deployments to Poland under NATO command placed Gripens alongside Eurofighter Typhoons in air policing roles amid live geopolitical tension. In that setting, reliability and integration mattered more than reputation. Reports indicated that the aircraft performed its assigned duties without incident, integrating into alliance structures with little friction. These developments have resonated most acutely in Canada, where the government has committed to acquiring F-35 aircraft while simultaneously facing economic and political cross-currents tied to broader trade tensions. Saab's proposal to establish full production capability in Canada, accompanied by significant technology transfer and industrial participation, reframed the discussion from simple procurement to national capacity building. The economic implications are substantial. Thousands of research and manufacturing positions could be tied to domestic production, alongside partnership in advanced airborne early warning platforms. For a country that once terminated its own ambitious fighter program in the mid-20th century, the prospect of reestablishing deeper aerospace sovereignty carries both symbolic and practical weight. None of this diminishes the capabilities of the F-35, which offers stealth, advanced sensor fusion, and deep strike integration within a vast allied ecosystem. Rather, it sharpens the contrast in strategic emphasis. One model prioritizes seamless integration into a multinational stealth architecture. The other emphasizes cost efficiency, operational independence, and domestic industrial empowerment. The stakes are not abstract. Operating costs influence sortie rates. Sortie rates influence pilot proficiency. Proficiency influences survivability. When per-flight hour expenses differ dramatically across platforms, the consequences ripple outward into readiness and flexibility. An aircraft that can fly more frequently for the same budget alters the daily posture of a nation's air defense. In the end, the debate over whether the Gripen was underrated misses the more important point. The real lesson is that strategic capability is not always aligned with public perception. Systems designed with discipline and coherence can quietly outperform expectations shaped by marketing and tradition. As nations weigh their choices, they would do well to examine not only the headlines of exercises, but the philosophies that produced the aircraft themselves. When governments confront choices of this scale, they must look beyond performance anecdotes and economic projections, and instead ask what enduring strategic posture they intend to assume. Procurement is policy expressed in metal and software. It reveals how a nation understands its geography, its alliances, and its tolerance for dependency. Canada's deliberation over its future fighter fleet therefore reaches far beyond comparative brochures. Canada occupies a geographic reality unlike that of most NATO members. It possesses immense northern approaches, sparse population centers, and an Arctic domain growing more contested by the year. Intercepts are not theoretical exercises, but routine assertions of sovereignty. In such an environment, endurance, reliability in extreme cold, and the ability to operate from dispersed or austere locations are not marginal features. They are central requirements. The Gripen's architecture was intentionally engineered to withstand severe climates and to function with small maintenance teams on short or improvised runways. That design philosophy reflects Sweden's own long-standing concern with resilience under pressure. At the same time, Canada's defense framework is inseparable from its partnership with the United States through NORAD. Continental defense is a binational responsibility, and interoperability is not optional. The F-35 program promises deep integration into a shared operational ecosystem that includes common software baselines, intelligence sharing, and coordinated upgrades. Participation binds member states into a tightly coupled network, reducing friction in joint operations, but also concentrating certain forms of control outside national borders. Here the issue becomes more delicate. Saab's proposal emphasizes full technology transfer, including access to source code and domestic authority over modifications. That level of autonomy is unusual in contemporary fighter programs. It would grant Canada discretion to integrate indigenous systems or adjust capabilities without awaiting foreign approval. For some, that represents strategic maturity. For others, it risks divergence from Allied standards. The tension, therefore, is not between competence and incompetence. It is between integration and independence, between centralized alliance architecture and distributed national control. Neither path is inherently irresponsible. Each carries obligations and constraints. Economic considerations intensify the debate. Historical studies and more recent disclosures suggest that operating costs for different fighter platforms vary widely. Even allowing for methodological differences in accounting, lower per-hour costs generally translate into higher sortie generation over time. Pilots who fly more frequently sharpen instincts that no simulator can fully replicate. Maintenance crews who turn aircraft rapidly build institutional confidence. In sustained operations, affordability compounds into readiness. Critics caution, correctly, that stealth capabilities and advanced electronic warfare systems deliver advantages that cannot be measured solely in hourly expense. The F-35 was designed for penetration of heavily defended airspace and for coordinated strike missions in contested theaters. It represents an offensive reach that smaller, non-stealth platforms may not replicate. If Canada's strategic horizon prioritizes expeditionary contributions deep within Allied coalitions, that capability weighs heavily. Yet if the central mission remains air policing, Arctic sovereignty, and rapid interception across vast domestic territory, the calculus shifts. A larger number of aircraft capable of frequent deployment may provide broader daily coverage than a smaller fleet whose operational tempo is constrained by cost and maintenance cycles. These are sober trade-offs. They are not resolved by rhetorical flourish or by isolated exercise results. They require disciplined assessment of long-term national priorities. History offers cautionary examples. In 1959, Canada terminated the Avro-Aero program, a decision shaped by economic pressures and shifting defense doctrines. The immediate savings came at the expense of domestic aerospace ambition. Many of the engineers who departed went on to contribute to foreign programs of extraordinary consequence. That episode remains etched in the country's institutional memory. Today, the prospect of establishing full production lines and embedding domestic suppliers into a modern fighter program invites reflection on industrial sovereignty. Brazil's partnership in the Gripen program demonstrates how technology transfer can cultivate a broader ecosystem over time. Such arrangements do not merely assemble aircraft. They cultivate expertise. Still, alliance politics cannot be ignored. Public remarks by American officials have signaled that deviations from established procurement pathways may complicate broader defense cooperation. While such statements are often couched in diplomatic language, they underscore the reality that defense contracts intertwine with strategic relationships. The essential question is therefore this: how should Canada balance sovereign capacity with alliance cohesion? How much autonomy is prudent, and how much integration is indispensable? These are not questions of pride. They are questions of long-term resilience in a world where supply chains, software updates, and geopolitical alignments can shift with little warning. The Gripen's reported performance at Red Flag and in subsequent NATO operations challenges a narrative of inadequacy. But the ultimate decision cannot rest on pride of performance alone. It must rest on a comprehensive vision of national defense, one that accounts for geography, fiscal sustainability, alliance commitments, and industrial development in equal measure.